books did it better. And Harry Potter fans still can't get over it. Because the movies cut some crucial details that change everything.
This is not normal.
Ron and Hermione's first kiss was actually even more romantic. The movies didn't show us how important Neville actually was. And Voldemort's cruelty has a heartbreaking story behind it. Let's reveal the truth. Hermione and the House-Elves.
Such an honor it is.
The Harry Potter movies only introduce us to Kreacher and Dobby, while in the books, these magical creatures are featured much more prevalently. The fourth book explains that House-Elves cook the food at Hogwarts and magically transport it to the Great Hall. What, you thought it came out of nowhere? Nah, it was the result of hard work from the House-Elves. And Hermione noticed the underappreciated workers. That's why she launches a whole movement and calls it the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, or SPEW. The movies make no mention of it, although it's a significant part of the story. Not only does it show another side of Hermione, a fighter for equality and justice, but it also adds an interesting element to her relationship with Ron. At first, he says that she's being ridiculous. Yet, in the final book, he declares that they should fight to protect the House-Elves during the Battle of Hogwarts, and that's what prompts Hermione to kiss him for the first time.
I let her do that.
So yeah, their first smooch was much more romantic than what we saw in the movie. Here's the next thing film viewers are left in the dark about. The origins of the Marauders Map.
So you mean this map shows
Everyone.
everyone?
Everyone. Where they are, what they're doing, every minute of every day.
Brilliant.
This magical object is an integral element of both the books and movies. But if you haven't read the series, you probably have no idea where it came from. The films give a few hints to its connection to Harry's father and his friends, but that's it. Meanwhile, the Prisoner of Azkaban book has a detailed description of its origin. The Marauders Map was created by James Potter and his friends Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. And 3 of them were animagi, which means that they could transform into animals. It explains how Sirius escaped Azkaban and how Peter was able to hide for all those years. What's more, the movies never mention that James could turn into a stag, hence Harry's Patronus, actually. In the films, the stag comes out of nowhere, and it's never explained why this animal is important to the boy. And not only that, but the entire story of the Marauders themselves is omitted. The movies only show them bullying Snape and don't explain how they turned from rowdy teens into wartime heroes. The third film also gives no details as to how Pettigrew betrayed Harry's parents. The conversation with Sirius in the Shrieking Shack, which is a considerable part of the book, is cut down to a few minutes in the movie. It greatly reduces the emotional impact on the viewers, so it should have never been skipped. Just like the next detail, Harry losing his temper.
I just feel so angry all the time.
In the movies, Harry seems to be a pretty restrained young man who accepts the challenges that come his way. But in the books, he's much more emotional, and it's completely understandable why. Everything he faces is a lot to handle for a teen. Harry's biggest breakdown happens after Sirius's death. In the Order of the Phoenix, he literally trashes Dumbledore's office. He smashes objects on the floor and screams at the headmaster for withholding information from him. It's a great scene that shows how much of a burden Harry is carrying. Voldemort's return, the prophecy, the dangers that await. So, his beloved godfather's death becomes a breaking point. And what's also important is, in that scene, Dumbledore agrees with Harry. It becomes a moment of catharsis for both characters. Of course, Sirius's death in the film was devastating as it is, but adding Harry's manifestation of grief would make it even more emotional and show just how broken he felt then. Okay, let's distract ourselves from the heart-wrenching moments and talk about Rita Skeeter, aka the Beetle in the jar.
Concerned.
Looks like animagi don't exist in the cinematic Potterverse. First, they omitted the fact that the Marauders, except for Lupin, could turn into animals. And then they also didn't tell us that Rita Skeeter was an animagus.
Whoa!
The nosy reporter from the Daily Prophet could transform into a beetle. That's how she managed to snoop around and learn people's secrets for her sensational articles. By the end of the 4th book, Hermione uncovered this fact, and she actually trapped the sneaky journalist in a jar, when she was in her beetle form, of course. And since Skeeter wasn't a registered animagus, Hermione could blackmail her with it. That's why the journalist stopped spreading BS about Harry and everyone else at Hogwarts. Later, Hermione also made her write an article about the return of Voldemort. None of this is explained in the movies. Not that we'd like to see more of Skeeter, but introducing Hermione's detective skills was certainly interesting. Now onto a sad part again. The sacrifice of the Longbottoms. In the Order of the Phoenix, the trio arrives at St. Mungo's hospital to visit Mr. Weasley, but they wander onto a wrong floor and come across the Longbottoms. In this part of the book, we learn details of their tragic story. Bellatrix Lestrange tortured them to insanity, so for the rest of their lives, they had to stay in the hospital. When Neville visited them, they barely recognized their own son. It's a heartbreaking moment, and it would have been great in the movie, especially since it's a very important scene. Not only does it give more backstory to Neville, but it also shows what the Longbottoms sacrificed in the fight against Voldemort, just like Harry's parents. And here's one more detail missed out from the films that connects Neville and Harry. The boy who was the chosen one.
And who might you be, young man?
When Trelawney made her prophecy about the boy who'd defeat Voldemort, she didn't give any names. She merely talked about the child born as the 7th month dies, to parents who thrice defied the Dark Lord. Both Harry and Neville were born at the end of July, and the parents of both boys were wartime heroes. In the books, it's revealed that the Chosen One could be either of them. Voldemort was actually the one who sealed Harry's fate, since, just like him, the boy was half-blood, the Dark Lord marked him as his equal. But he could have easily chosen Neville as well. That's exactly why he plays such a crucial role in the series, if you think about it. Even in the first book, Neville is the one to secure the House Cup for Gryffindor.
I'll fight you!
Then, when Harry leaves Hogwarts, Neville becomes the leader of Dumbledore's army. And, most notably, he destroys Nagini, Voldemort's final Horcrux, and makes him mortal. The movie certainly didn't do justice to the prophecy like the books did in explaining it. Plus, they failed to include a vital part about another character. Peter Pettigrew's fate. Do you remember what happened to this despicable traitor in the movies? You probably don't, because it wasn't explicitly shown. Dobby stuns him from the back, and he collapses. And that's the last time we see Pettigrew. Some viewers thought that Dobby killed him, but that's not possible. First of all, a stunning curse only paralyzes a person. And secondly, House-Elves can't kill others with their magic. Those who read the books know that Wormtail's life ends in a completely different and very symbolic way. It takes us back to the Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry stops Sirius from killing Peter.
I said we'd take you to the castle. After that, the Dementors can have you.
Thus, unfortunately, he allows him to escape. But Dumbledore explains to Harry that Pettigrew now owes him his life. Then, in the Goblet of Fire, Wormtail cuts off his hand so Voldemort can be reborn, and the Dark Lord gifts him with a new silver hand. Finally, in the Deathly Hallows, Peter tries to strangle Harry, and the boy reminds him of the debt he owes. Pettigrew hesitates for a second, and it's enough for the hand to turn on him. That's right, he dies by his own hand, the one that Voldemort gifted him with. Truly, the Dark Lord worked in mysterious ways. But he wasn't cruel just because, like the movie implies. The books give the real reason for his cruelty. Born without love. The books explain that Voldemort was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, hence his pride in pure blood and stuff. But that wasn't all. Voldy's mother, Merope Gaunt, fell in love with a muggle man named Tom Riddle. He didn't reciprocate her feelings, so she bewitched him to get him to marry her. As soon as he freed himself from her magic, Riddle left Merope along with their unborn child. The books explain that it was a symbolic way of showing that Tom Riddle Jr. was conceived in a loveless union. That is why Voldemort was incapable of feeling empathy. He started killing when he was only a teenager. The future Dark Lord's first victims were his father and Muggle grandparents, and he framed his uncle for all these murders. This is a gruesome story, but it's vital for understanding Tom Riddle's transformation into Voldemort. After killing the Riddles, he stole the Gaunt family ring and later turned it into a Horcrux. Interestingly, the stone inside the ring was actually the resurrection stone that Harry used before sacrificing himself. Speaking of which, Harry becoming the Master of Death.
The boy who lived, come to die.
At the climax of his story, Harry comes to meet Voldemort face to face and allows the Dark Lord to kill him. Both in the book and movie, he then finds himself in a place reminiscent of King's Cross Station, where Dumbledore approaches him. That's where the story goes differently. The movie only gives a hint as to how Harry can come back to life, and it's quite confusing, while the book explains that the boy has become the Master of Death. He came to possess all 3 Deathly Hallows: the Invisibility Cloak, the Elder Wand, and the Resurrection Stone. And what's even more important, Harry greeted death as his old friend. This is how Dumbledore elaborates on it in the book.
The true master does not seek to run away from death. He accepts that he must die and understands that there are far, far worse things in the living world than dying.
What's more, with his sacrifice, Harry casts a protection charm over everyone at Hogwarts, just like his mother did when he was a baby. That is why Death Eaters can't kill anyone at the castle starting from that moment. The movie completely fails to mention it, yet it's a critical detail that brings the series full circle. What other parts of the books do you think should have been included in the movies? Share in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about your favorite Harry Potter characters, check out our other videos.